You are listening to the 10 After Party with Super Summer. Super Summer began in 1974 as an evangelism training camp teaching students to know and share the gospel, and we continue to do that to this day. This podcast is designed to be an after party of your Wednesday night church gathering. Each week at 10 after 8, we will upload new episodes, so be sure to subscribe to this channel. It is the goal of this podcast to teach you to know and share the gospel as you drive home from church. Super Summer is truly a family with thousands of members all over the nation, so we want to welcome you to the Super Summer family now, and thank you for joining us for this episode of the 10 After Party with Super Summer. Hey, and welcome to the 10 After Party with Super Summer. We're so excited that you decided to join us. We want to highly encourage you to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss future episodes. Pretty much what the 10 After Party is all about is you are probably done with your church service by now, and you're on your ride home. So we just want to be part of that ride with you. Every week, we're going to upload a new video, 10 After 8, so that you can be part of the 10 After Party with Super Summer every week after church. So without further ado, this is Preston Cave. We've got Jason Richards with us, and we have Shannon Hopkins all the way from Honduras. So guys, welcome to the show. We're excited. Today, we're going to be talking about relational evangelism versus confrontational evangelism. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw it over to you, Jason. You're the director of Super Summer, so take it away.
Yeah. Okay. So Shannon and I are good friends. We've had lots of conversations about things, and this is one of those things we've talked about. So that I thought was fascinating to hear his thoughts on. And so there's this idea of what I say is relational evangelism. It's like having real relationships. And then there's this other concept of confrontational evangelism. So Shannon, can you help us know, what does confrontational evangelism look like?
Yeah, well, it's good to be on. Thank you guys for inviting me to come in. And I love talking about evangelism and especially things like this because it relates a lot to what we do here in Honduras. And so over the years, as we've had teams come in and we've worked with people on how to share the gospel, this thought process have been, what should evangelism look like in a healthy way? And I guess kind of coming up with this word confrontational evangelism, that's kind of like when we try to share the gospel in a confrontational way. And basically what I mean by that is like, it's kind of like a strategy maybe to attack or to the viewpoints of others, or maybe to debate with others based on their opinions and try to defend or maybe justify the gospel against the way others perceive it. It in essence, it's very defensive. And so whereas you have relational evangelism, the way I look at it is it's really, it's a conversation you're having with somebody that you already have a relationship with. And it's not really a presentation on facts and data, but it's just a casual conversation like we're having today.
Right.
And so it's really a natural part of your relationship because you share what you love. I mean, and what you enjoy. So it's not defensive. It's just an enjoyable conversation with somebody about who Jesus is and what the gospel is.
Gotcha. Okay, so you kind of described confrontational evangelism. You described relational evangelism. If you can't see that word anywhere, that's the word real, and then relational. So it's like just relational, but we're adding in that real component because it feels like a lot of times we're trying to confront somebody or trying to convert somebody instead of having a relationship with that person. So it's a term we're kind of throwing around here called relational evangelism. So why would you say, Shannon, that relational evangelism is so much better than confrontational evangelism?
Well, I think for first part is that it's based on a relationship, which means that it's not a one-time encounter. I think earlier when I first started kind of processing through this, I kind of called it stranger evangelism in some ways, because it's kind of like this thought that I got to go talk to somebody I don't know and just kind of just lay out as much as I can, as quick as I can, in hopes that I'm going to convince them in a short time frame with data and statistics and things like that that they need Jesus. And so with relational, the difference is like I said, it's just a conversation, and it's, in those conversations, you're going to naturally come up with things that are right and wrong. We're going to discuss those all the time, but it's not a debate. It's not about who wins. It's just a conversation that causes people to think and to process what's going on. And I think when you do like relational evangelism, it kind of eliminates the pressure and fear that you have to give this presentation that's polished and has all the right answers. And whereas, you know, when you're doing kind of confrontational, it's quick. It's with a stranger. You got to get as much in as you want. It's A plus B equals C. And so it focuses on telling people what they should believe. And a lot of times it fails to listen to them and where they're at. And so I think, I guess really to kind of sum it all up, I'd say it like this. If you keep telling your friends over and over again how wrong they are and what they should do, you're not going to have friends too much longer, and they're going to look at you as pretty confrontational. Yeah. And so it's just it's going to be hard to share the gospel with somebody like that and then move on to discipleship.
Right. Yeah, I think that says it really well. You know, we've got a few more minutes. I met a lady once, and she's very nice. She was about, I think she was, well, if she ever listens, I don't want to offend her. She was older than me. Let's just say that. And for decades, she responded to Christians who shared the gospel with her in a confrontational manner because that's the way they interacted with her. And part of that conversation with her is what sparked the idea in me to be like, why do we go and confront people? You know, why are we not caring about their person, like caring about their soul, interacting with them? You know, like if we actually care about them, then we would listen as well. And we wouldn't have to debate or argue. We would understand their perspective. You know, like they usually are not much different than us. We can understand those things, but for some reason we feel a pressure like we can't admit that, you know, or that we're not some kind of opponent to God as well, you know, like that we don't fight against his call on our life or his instructions for us. So yeah, well, I think that's a good way to communicate, you know, what the difference is between relational evangelism and confrontational evangelism. I think we probably have a few more minutes. Let's talk about how natural or prevalent do you think it is for us who grow up in the church or who maybe start visiting a student ministry or youth group, and we hear about it's time to go and share this good news with somebody. Like, how present is that thought that, well, I've got to go out and talk to them and get them to the point of a conversion as opposed to a relationship? Do you think that's the case? That's always the case, or what? Give a little bit of feedback on what you think is happening there.
I mean, I think we do look at evangelism like a duty, like something I'm supposed to do. And I go back to the same thing. Like, if you love it, it's naturally going to flow. You're naturally going to have that conversation with people, but we make it in such a maybe a results driven way that you know, I think we have the wrong metrics and the wrong measurements of success when we share the gospel, because so much we say, well, I shared the gospel and no one accepted, so I failed. No, you didn't. You were successful because you shared the gospel. That's what God asked you to do.
Right.
I mean, without trying to, I don't know, you know, like I really want to I'm going to go and bring this up in here, but you know, I think a big key in all of this is the Holy Spirit. And I think that's why it's not our job to convict and tell people why they're wrong. That's the role of the Holy Spirit. And we don't go do projects. The Holy Spirit leads us. And when we have conversations, the Holy Spirit says, okay, hey, that's the person you need to be talking to. Hey, pay attention right here. So I think it should never be an event. I don't any at all. It just should be just naturally what comes out of what's going on. And it's funny is that the more evangelistic you are, and this is kind of super weird, but kind of like the less you have to go, because people start coming to you in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm not saying you should stop going, but what I'm saying is, like, because you have that reputation of being approachable, you're listening, you don't beat people down, you just have conversations, people seek that out. I have some dogs in the background, I think you're hearing right now. And
that's the beauty of Honduras.
I can just tell you one quick story is that there's a guy in town, his name's Luis, and he has a coffee shop, and I love coffee. And last week during quarantine, he initiated a conversation with me about bringing coffee and said, hey, in this time, I want you to pass through quarantine good. Just appreciate all that you do. And you know, I don't know much about the Bible as you do, but I just want to be helpful. And I'm like, hey, I would love to have a conversation about what you do know. And he's like, yeah, that would be great. I don't really have anybody to talk to about that. And those are small little things that you can just be available, and people will come to you as well.
Yeah, and so just kind of to wrap up for this episode, the idea is when you have a relationship, not only is it going to be easier for you to share the gospel with those that are hearing it, but it's going to give you more opportunities to share the gospel with other people because they're going to know that that person actually loves me. So you know, just a couple things that I wrote down as we get ready to wrap up. The gospel is not a presentation; it's a conversation. So always keep that in mind. Even if you're sharing with a stranger, it's more of a conversation than it is a presentation. And you share what you love. So students, let me ask you, what do you love and what are you sharing? I can tell you this, that I can listen to what you're sharing and then that'll tell me what you love. That'll tell us what you love. So that's been a great conversation for us for this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel every week. We're going to have just a quick little nugget just like this to talk about what the gospel is, what evangelism is, and you are now part of the Super Summer family. So welcome to the family. This has been the 10 After Party with Super Summer. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Shannon, for the wisdom. And guys, until next time, make sure that you know and share the gospel today.